Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today. We'll start with Ms. Kramer. So, Ms. Kramer, thank you for being here. I want to start with the PFAS. As I've spoken about a lot in this committee, PFAS contamination is having a big impact on our groundwater aquifers in Arizona. In both Phoenix and Tucson, but especially in Tucson, we've banked groundwater for decades to create resiliency if we have to in dealing with this long-term drought. But the problem we now have is that there's PFAS contamination in our groundwater aquifers, making it hard to access our backup groundwater. So, Ms. Kramer, when you worked in the Senate, I know you helped write the water cleanup provisions included in the bipartisan infrastructure law. Do you think the programs created in that law to address PFAS contamination have been successful?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. That is a great question. I think defining success with relation to PFAS is a tough and a bit of a moving target. And I say that simply because it seems that every year that goes by, we learn more. And we also have a better understanding of the impacts that have occurred to groundwater systems and the impacts that are facing drinking water and wastewater systems as they work towards addressing these challenges. I think incremental progress is progress. Every step in the right direction is a good one, but there is a lot of work yet to be done in this space. Is
it fair to say that because of these programs, we have been able to remove some PFAS from drinking water?
Absolutely, Senator.
Okay. So after those programs expire in 2026, what are the next steps that Congress and EPA should take to continue to address PFAS contamination?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I have to be mindful of the fact that I know I am not allowed to lobby in front of you to tell you what I would recommend Congress does. However, what I can tell you is two things. One is that EPA is going to be evaluating all of its tools to address PFAS. The second thing I will tell you is that along the way, if I am confirmed in this position, we will have conversations that will involve Senate staff and House staff to provide information as to what those actions are that we have, what the limitations are of the law for us to be able to go further or to address things with a finer point. And hopefully that will provide a sound basis for you, Senator, for your colleagues, for your staff, to be able to see the challenges that we face and address those head on should you choose to do so.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Donahue. Mr. Donahue, do you support the principle embedded in the Superfund law that parties responsible for pollution should be held to strict, retroactive, joint, and several?
Senator, the polluter pays model that's reflected there, I believe, is a very effective model for cleanup and holding polluters accountable, yes.
So that sounds like a yes. Thank you. And do you agree that PFOA and PFAS were appropriately designated as hazardous substances under the CERCLA law last year?
Senator, thank you for that. I'm not going to comment on that directly because that is a policy matter, and I am here potentially for a legal job. I know that there are other tools that many have argued are better suited for dealing with the PFAS problem without unleashing an enormous amount of liability that could be felt throughout the entire economy.
How about from a personal perspective? Do you want PFOA and PFAS to be in your drinking water?
I think the PFAS problem is it's critical that we address it, so no, I do not. I actually have a PFAS filter, or a filter that filters out PFAS at home, so no.
And does the CERCLA statute allow for EPA to create carve-outs or exemptions for specific industries or chemicals?
Senator, I think it would depend on how that's done, potentially.
No. Does it currently allow for carve-outs?
No, Senator.
It does not. Okay. So will you commit to ensuring EPA implements the recent designation of PFOA and PFAS consistent with the CERCLA law?
Senator, I'll commit to you that if confirmed, the Office of the General Counsel will ensure that the administrator and the client offices receive the best legal advice so that we do comply with the law, CERCLA in this case, yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, could I have another minute or maybe 90 seconds? Back to Ms. Kramer. I also want to ask about the WOTUS definition. Administrator Zeldin has named this as one of a number of regulations the administration plans to address. A frustration I voiced for years is that the litigation around how we define WOTUS creates real problems for Arizona. Some definitions have captured literally every dry wash and ditch in the state, and others have eliminated critical protections for drinking water in Arizona. In just the last 4 years, I think there's been 3 or 4 regulatory changes for the WOTUS definition. Ms. Kramer, now that the Supreme Court has weighed in on WOTUS, on the definition, how will you work to make sure that we establish a durable definition of WOTUS that provides certainty for stakeholders across the country, including in desert states like Arizona?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I am aware of the challenges that your state faces, and I think going back to the cooperative federalism framework for just a second, that also allows some assistance outside of just the federal jurisdiction and moving forward. But with respect to WOTUS specifically, we will be following SACIT, and to the extent that we venture down a rulemaking path, the goal will be to refine those remaining somewhat ambiguous phrases and terms that are remaining in SACIT to ensure that we're doing a little refining around the edges, but hopefully to stop the ping pong that you referenced in the litigation going back and forth that does no one any good, not the regulator, not the regulated community. As we venture down that path, even before we've started to venture down that path, we will be holding robust listening sessions and opening a docket to take public comment. That was something that was kicked off by the Office of Water a couple of weeks ago at this point. Through those conversations, through that public comment process, that is the opportunity that we will have, and especially if I am confirmed, we will take those unique perspectives into account to ensure that we are regulating while acknowledging the unique challenges that face every state across this country. And to the extent that there is something along the edges that does not fall into the federal jurisdiction that would be defined via rule, that would be the opportunity for the state to be able to regulate with a little bit more stringency than perhaps where we land on the rule. But durability and the ability for people to clearly understand the rule, that's the name of the game here.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the extra time.